Hello YouTube, I'm here from Blue Noodle Studios, and in today's video I'm bringing you another episode of my Beginner's Photoshop tutorial series. So in today's episode what I'm going to be going over is brushes, and I'm going to be going into a bit of detail about how you can edit brushes and do some really nice things with them without getting too advanced so that you just get a bit overwhelmed. So hopefully I'll be able to teach you a lot about brushes, how to edit them a bit but not confuse you. So to get started, just open up a blank document. It doesn't really matter what size. I just chose just a normal sort of size. If you just unlock your background in case you want to change anything like that. And one of the most important things for this tutorial is to make sure that you have this window open, which you can use to edit your brush. So make sure that you just come up to Window and make sure that Brush is ticked. So if you click on that, normally it probably won't be showing, but if you press Window, Brush, you'll get this panel, and then you can move it around if you want until it's in a good position. And so now that we've got our blank canvas, I'm ready to start talking about what brushes are and how they work. So a brush in Photoshop is just like a normal brush in real life. You select the tool and then you can drag around and paint, except you can also change the characteristics of the brush using this brush panel. So you can make brushes more scattered, spaced out, bigger, softer, all sorts of things that you can even see here. So here's the brush window. We've also got things like brush presets that give us lots of different options about brushes. So they've created these brushes for us to use without having to edit them heaps, which saves us a lot of time and gives us some great effects we can choose to use. So if we just come back into the brush window, what I'm going to do is come over to the brush tool here, and then I'm going to hold it down, and so these are the different tools associated with the brush tool. You've got the brush tool, pencil tool, color replacement tool, and mixer brush tool. Mainly for today I'm going to be talking about the brush tool. I'll probably quickly go over the pencil tool as well, but we won't be going over these two. They're a bit more advanced and you won't really use them as much as you'll use these two tools. Okay, so now that we're in the brush, what we can do is just come up here. So these are the more basic options. You've got some different presets around here. New tool preset, you can look through here and just explore all the options. And so here you can change the size of the brush. So if we come into our canvas, you can see how big it will be. If you turn the hardness up, it's not going to be as soft. So if we turn the size up, you can see our circle gets bigger. And then if we paint a stroke, it's a bit slow because I'm doing the screen recording. But then if we paint a stroke, you can see it coming up on our screen. So if you turn the hardness right up, if I just put the size down a little, you can see that it's a nice solid brush stroke. Whereas if you turn it right down, you can see that it's actually, oh sorry, I've got some effects on here. So I was doing these before. So this is where you just manage effects. I'll just turn these off. But then if you have it on, if the hardness is 0, then it's really soft and you've got a nice fading effect. And so that can be really good in some situations. So then here you've got the blending mode, just like in anything else. You can choose normal. It just changes, in case you don't know what a blending mode is, it just changes the way that objects interact with other objects, but you don't really need to know too much about them. And then you've got the opacity, so you can make it more solid or not. Then you can change the flow as well. There are some interesting options for this. And then these are more complicated things. So those are the basic settings for brushes, but then as I said, you can really tweak them and get into them, and you do that in this brush window here. So if we come in here, you can see that we've got up here a bunch of different presets, then here we've got options, and here we've got our different sort of styles. So it works exactly like layer styles. So if you came into a layer style, you can add shadows and things. We went over that in an earlier tutorial. So it works just like that. You can add different effects here. So for example, if we add shape dynamics and click on here, then you can see it's going to try to help us get some different shapes. It won't work in all situations. Some of them you may even need a tablet for it to work nicely, but some of these things work. So if you come into shape dynamics, you want to just play around with all of these options. So we can change the size jitter. If we come in here, we can see that it's sort of a bit bumpy. And then you can change the minimum diameter. So if we bump this up a lot, maybe put this up too. So you can see all sorts of things you can do with this. And you can change the angle. And so you can look down here for a preview of what's happening. the roundness, minimum roundness. So all sorts of things with this effect. So I'll just turn this off. Actually, I might just quickly get rid of this just so I have a blank space again to work with. Oopsie daisies. Okay, I'll just get a white background. Okay, so then if we come back into here, back into the brush tool, that's how you access it. Then we can come into scattering. Now, scattering is definitely one of my favorite effects. You can get some really good stuff with it. So if you have scattering applied, just let me switch back to black. If you have scattering applied, then you can do a stroke and get this sort of nice spotty effect all around it, just in random positions. So this is a really cool sort of thing to do. Again, you can see the preview down in the bottom here, and then you can change the amount that it scatters and all sorts of awesome things within this. And so then if we come back, we can maybe try texture. So texture is another great effect. You may have worked with texture before. So texture, just essentially, as its name says, it implies texture to objects. So for example, if we came here, one of my favorite ones is nature patterns. You can also get patterns within it. So then if we come into leaves, if we put this on, should be working. So there are some different options to get these working. Sometimes it doesn't work. You need to make sure that you have no color. So I'm not going to do that for this episode, but we'll go into that a bit more later. Forgot about that bit. So then dual brush, some of these things you don't need to know too much about. Noise is a good one. If it's going to let us come into here, you can just turn it on and off. One of my favorite ones is Airbrush. Airbrush just allows you to sort of make it, as it says, like an airbrush. And so those are the main options. Then you've got smoothing as well, is a good one. If you come into smoothing, then what we can do within smoothing is just make it so that if you draw a line and it's a bit bumpy, it'll automatically smooth it off and make it look really nice. So then if we come into brush presets, what we can do is use all of these different presets for our brush. So we could come into this one and we can just see the kind of effects we can get. A bit of a hard edge. You can get stars within this using a bit of a scatter and some different shapes as well. You can get things like this. So there are all sorts of different presets which you can use, which make it a lot easier and quicker to get different effects. So some of the presets look really nice. And just to finish off the video for a bit of an example of the kind of sort of thing that you could do with some of these different brush effects, let's just try to make a nice sort of modern art thing. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just so you can get an idea of the sort of stuff you can do. If we just come into colors, get a nice blue. Maybe if we come into brush presets, put it back to our normal one, go into brush, put some scattering on, turn this down a bit, put up the scattering, and then we should be able to just sort of draw around, and then you can see these just popping up as it loads where to put them. So we can just get these scatterings all over. Then maybe if we come back into brush presets once this loads, and we can maybe choose one of these sorts of things, maybe swap to a different color, a nice orange, maybe even make a new layer and put it behind these blue ones. So I've got some layering going on, get a line through there, and so as it loads it, you can see your painting coming together, and it starts to look really nice after a while. So then if we come, just start to make some different strokes, get some sort of different things in here. Now I know that this looks horrible at the moment, but it's just showing that with some harder work, and if you had a while, you could actually make some pretty nice stuff with these effects. So thanks very much for watching this tutorial. Make sure you subscribe, comment, and like this video. Also make sure that you check out the rest of my beginner's Photoshop tutorial series. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you later.